Grief doesn't come with instructions. There is no map, no timeline, no easy way forward, but every day, people find the strength to keep going, to rebuild their lives, and to carry the memories of the ones they love. This is Strength After Sorrow.
Welcome back to Strength After Sorrow. I'm Jeff Sandman, and today what I want to talk about is what grief really looks like, that raw, non-Instagram version. I know there's a lot of people out there that maybe try to post some things online, but that is not what this episode is going to be about. This is not going to be that polished, hey, look at me kind of thing. This is ultimately what it looks like when nobody else is around. And those are the times where it's a little bit harder because there aren't those people around to be able to support you. Those people aren't there to be able to have a shoulder to, I guess, lean on or whatever it is. And that's when those feelings just start coming in and you can really feel alone. You can feel all by yourself. The brokenness, all that stuff just starts to happen when you are by yourself. So today I just wanted to I've got some notes again, trying to stay on track. That way I don't get too far off. So again, like I've shared in the beginning, that we lost our son back in 2019. He was 26 years old. And, when I was putting this episode together, I started thinking about the time when, shortly after he passed, and just some of the feelings that I had and I guess the emptiness. I go back to even that day, and like I said, I will eventually just kind of share that day. Today I'm not going to do that. I'll share some days after that and just kind of what I was feeling, what I was going through, the things that I was dealing with, how it affected my body, how it affected my mental state, all that stuff. And again, I was a business owner at the time. I had my own business doing refrigeration and restaurant equipment repair. It was kind of an all-in-one type of thing. If you had it there, I would take care of it. And just the impact that it had on my drive as far as being a business owner and wanting to do things. Those are a couple of the things that I'm going to try to share in this episode. And hopefully it will be real. Hopefully you guys, if you're going through something like this, then what I'm saying is kind of like I've shared before, maybe a roadmap, or maybe it's just a confirmation that what you're going through isn't just you. It's perfectly normal. It's just the way it is. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about, shortly after he'd passed, here I was. I remember thinking back on that I would spend a lot of times where I just couldn't sleep. And here I was downstairs, my wife was upstairs, and I don't know if she was sleeping or not. I never asked, but I would stay up late and I would binge watch shows that I thought our son would like. And you'd start watching one, and then the next one would come on, and the next one would come on. And next thing you know, it's 3:30 in the morning. And sometimes I decided to go ahead and shut it off and go up to our bed and go to sleep. Sometimes I just decided to sleep there on the couch. There wasn't really a rhyme or reason to it. That right there is one of those, can really start building some separation between you and your spouse. And I know there was a time there that my wife and I wouldn't say that we were apart, but I don't know that we were together in a lot of it there at the beginning. And, she was going through her stuff, I was going through my stuff, and I was, of course, like I mentioned before, I was trying not to burden her with what I was feeling, what I was going through, because I was like, I'm supposed to be the one that is there for my wife. I'm supposed to be the one taking care of her. And it is just so so backwards. The true way to be able to take care of my wife is to be there with her, to let her know the things that I'm going through, to trust her enough that she can handle the feelings that I'm having as well, and we can be there for each other. But that wasn't how it was. That wasn't what I was thinking. Wasn't what I was doing. A lot of it, I honestly was, and you're entitled to it. I'll tell you what, I think some of it I was feeling not just helpless. I was feeling, maybe not necessarily the woe is me kind of attitude. I think me as a dad, a lot of it for me was, what could have I done different as a dad to be able to protect my child? And yeah, he was 26 years old, so technically he was an adult. That doesn't change the fact that I don't care how old you are as a parent. There's always that in the back of your mind, is there something that I could have done better to protect them? And if you're a good parent, that is one of those things that you think about. How can I take care of my children? How can I be there for them? And sometimes you just can't. You can't be everywhere. You can't be everything. And we just have to accept that life is going to happen, and people make choices, whether it's our choices or somebody else's choices, they affect us. And that was just one of those things that I had to come to terms with, that I did what I could. I can't go back. I couldn't change anything. The only thing I could do was learn from maybe some things that I didn't do right and try to move forward and try to be a better dad, try to be a better husband, try to be a better whatever it was. And that goes back to that victor, not a victim mentality of trying to learn from things. Learning from life is an attitude that I just have had. And when you can grab a hold of that, then I think it's a little bit, I'm not going to say easier. I think if it's in the back of your mind, then yes, it can be easier. But if you can get that in your vocabulary, that I'm going to learn from this, I'm going to take what happened and I'm going to have that experience, and I'm going to find out what can I learn from it. And everything that we do every single day, we can do an inventory and say, well, what can I learn from today? What was good today? What was bad today? And then whatever was bad, see if there was a way that you could learn, so that way next time that is there, it isn't so bad. So there was just a little bit there. I kind of got off, what I was talking about there. There in the beginning, a lot of it was me just staying up and just doing that. And I just sleepless nights. I didn't necessarily want to eat. It was my drive to do things was disappearing. And, I had a drive to expand my business and be one of the biggest shops in our area that did what I did. And once that happened, that drive to be able to do that just disappeared. And it's not like it just slowly dropped. It just flat disappeared. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to do things. I didn't want to go anywhere really, which was weird for me because I'm usually one of those, I get fairly antsy if I'm not out and about for a while. And I'm one of those that if I'm talking on the phone, I'm pacing back and forth. My wife's like, what are you doing? Would you just sit down? But that's just how I am. I've got to move. I'm tapping when I'm sitting there, listening to music. And my wife's always just kind of looking at me. But that's just who I am. So for me to lose that, to not want to do things, not want to go expand the business that I started, that was successful, that was doing good, to just completely drop off, and that was just not me. Again, I had those guilty feelings of, you know, was I, did I do something wrong? What was it that I failed at as a dad that made him want to go down that road to be influenced by drugs? And again, we all make choices. And I had to look back and look at how I was brought up. It didn't matter what my parents told me. I mean, there was a moment in my life, which I think that is with everybody, that it didn't matter what my parents said. I wasn't going to listen to them anyway because I thought I knew best. And I hear a lot of people, you know, if I could go back and tell my younger self, your younger self wouldn't have listened to you. So there's absolutely nothing that you could do to go back and actually talk them into something. So I had to come to terms with that it wasn't something that I did, wasn't choices that I made, it was choices that he made, or, you know, other things that people are going through. There's choices. So when I came to terms with that helped a little bit. So I didn't center on that for very long. And again, like I've shared before, that was one of those things, we didn't want to go down that trail of what ifs. What if I could have? What if I did this? What if I did that? What if? Well, there was no what if, because there was something that happened and there was no taking it back. So I couldn't go back. I couldn't do anything to change it. Another thing that I would just be mad. I'm one of those, my feelings do not come out, and I would push all my feelings down, and I know that's not good. I know it's not good at all. And they're going to escape sometime. You can only, if you've ever seen a pressure cooker, that thing can only go for so long before it starts trying to get that pressure out. And you start hearing that whistle. And that was me. That was me when I would run into things. I would just get angry at things, whether I was driving down the road. And before this, I was one of those that when I'm driving down the road and somebody would cut me off, I would, well, they must be in a big hurry. So I would actually pray for them. I would say, Lord, I just pray right now that they can get wherever they need to go safely, and whatever it is that they're going through, I ask that you would just help them. And that wasn't something that I grew up doing. Just so you guys know that. That's not something that, you know, was natural. That was something that I intentionally had to start doing. And I lost that after our son passed. There was no more of that thinking of maybe somebody else is going through something when I'm coming up to a traffic jam. You know, there's a car accident up ahead, and now my first thought, which a lot of people are this way, is, man, I can't believe it. You got to be kidding me. We're here stuck in traffic now. Great. Well, before that, it was somebody's in an accident. I wonder if they're okay. And again, like I said, that was something that I had to train myself to do. I had to start looking at things. And I believe I heard somebody actually talk about that one time. And it gave me a new perspective on it. Instead of me just getting angry or upset because my time was being slowed down, what about that person that just got in an accident? I mean, their time slowed way down. What if, you know, did they die? Did they just get severely hurt? Are they okay? Even if they're okay, guess what? Now their car's all messed up. So now they got to deal with a car that's broke. And now maybe that was their only car. And so my perspective on that had shifted. But now after losing our son, that just went out the window. I didn't care. I didn't think about that. My mind wasn't thinking of things. It was just reacting. And a lot of it, again, was because I was pushing those feelings down. I wasn't letting them up. And when little things like that would happen, that was that pressure cooker effect. And that whistle would start blowing and I would just pop. And I would get angry with work. I would get angry with not being able to fix things. And there's so many things that was going on at that time. I didn't want to be around people. And I am one of those that I can be with people with no problem. And I can also be away from people with no problem. But I can only do that for so long, and then I need to get around some people. But I absolutely did not want to be around people. I no longer liked being in big groups, and even to this day I have a hard time being in a big group. There's just too much going on. I'm better than I was, but I still have some issues with that. The other thing I wanted to kind of cover was some of the misconceptions about grief, and a lot of those I learned, whether it was reading some books or whether it was going to the grief groups down there in Colorado at Three Hopeful Hearts, or I was trying to find podcasts and all kinds of different things, just talking about what was going on, because I wanted to understand what these feelings were, what this was. And I'm one of those that, like I said, I had a business fixing things. I am a professional repair person. And to have something in my life that I could not fix, I did not like. So I was trying to find whatever it was that I could to figure out what this was so that I could fix it. That is definitely the wrong mentality. This isn't something you can just fix. You need to learn about some things. There's steps, there's feelings and if you can understand what these feelings are that you're going to experience, then it's not that you're fixing it. It is now that you're ready for those feelings, and when they come, then you're prepared. It's the same thing as, say you're wanting to travel someplace and you're asking somebody, okay, can you give me some directions? Yeah, let me tell you how you get down there. This is what you do. You're going to go down here. But when you get down here, there's going to be this one point that you have to do something. There's these bumps in the road and you can't see them. But if you don't slow down, then you're going to feel them in the car, and your car is going to bounce all over the place. You're going to knock things all over the place, whatever it was. And if you don't pay attention, then when you're driving, you're not going to slow down, and boom, you weren't ready for it. But because they gave you directions, because they told you this is what was going to happen, this right here, this is a possibility unless they fix the roads. So now when you get up there, you're ready for it and you're prepared and you can slow down. And that was the same way it was with the grief and the feelings and the things that we were going through. Was the more that I was looking into this, the more that I was seeing, okay, so this is a normal feeling. This is something that is really supposed to happen. It's supposed to be what it is. And some of it is because that is part of the healing process. Some of it is, it's just part of it. And I did make the mistake of trying to listen to some podcasts while I was driving. I don't recommend listening to grief podcasts while you're driving down the road. They were sharing their stories, and it was hitting me, and my eyes were watering, and I couldn't see where I was going. I had to pull over. So listening to podcasts while I was driving about grief came to a quick stop. And I really don't listen to podcasts too much when I'm just sitting around the house. So those kind of went out the window. So I was just looking at different things, reading a book or whatever it was, or when we were in our groups talking and just listening to others talk about how they were feeling about things. And those were starting to let me know, hey, this is a normal feeling. This is what it is. This is what this is. Or maybe you're going to experience this. And so that was really helpful for me. And, I started learning about what some of the myths were and what realities were of grief. And one of the myths was that grief is linear. And I've kind of shared this before that, that myth of, hey, here you are right here, you're in grief, and your next step is you're going to experience this. And then once you experience this, then you're going to experience this. And then once you experience this, then you'll move on to this. Well, that is not at all the way it really works. The reality is there's waves. It will go, you'll have a peak here and you'll come back down, and maybe you come back over here, and what you thought was going to be step one, quote unquote, is actually happening after number 3 or what. There is no steps in this. It's just there's waves, and there is no rhyme or reason to it. It's just, to me, it was more of there's triggers. There's different things that maybe you see, maybe you hear, maybe you're sitting at home watching a show, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, that just reminded me of something that's had to do with our son. Or one of our hardest ones actually are some of our friends. They'd lost their daughter right after she was born. And we went to the service for her, and that was one of the biggest triggers for me because, number one, it was at the same church. And then number two, it was just like everything that we had experienced on the day that we had the service for our son all just came back. So there was a trigger. And I'm not even kidding, every emotion that I had ever had going through grief hit me that day. And that was probably one of the hardest days after doing the service for our son. But then again, those were triggers. There was an entire event that triggered those emotions that I had inside, that I was pushing down, that I was trying not to release. Some other things, whether it was some setbacks, whatever it was. I mean, there's all kinds of things that would just cue these emotions. And there, again, like I said, there was a lot of times no rhyme or reason to it. It was just, I don't understand why I'm feeling this way. I absolutely do not. I can't go back and think of what it was that is making this come up right now. And for me, I believe a lot of it was with me pushing things down, that they're just kind of rising up. But also, I believe that even if I wasn't pushing them down, that those are just feelings that you have. There was a traumatic thing that happened in your life, and you can't stop it from coming up. It's until you completely deal with things, until you completely understand that these things are going to happen, it's just going to keep coming. And to this day, I still will have setbacks. I'll have triggers that hit me, and I'll still have some waves. And it's been since 2019, and we're in 2026. We're moving on to, what is this, 7 years? Is that right? I think so. Yeah, in August. And there's still days that I have setbacks. There's still days, and whether it's just something that I think about, or I hear a story that somebody else had lost a child or something, and it just hits me, and I can feel some of those emotions again. So grief is not linear. It's all over the place. It is a scatterbrain. It is the best way I could describe it is chaos. There's no rhyme or reason to it. You can't control it. You can't schedule it. You can't tell it, nope, sorry, I'm at work right now. I don't have time for you. Or I am on the phone with somebody. I'm doing an interview, or I'm here I am, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Or, with me, here I am at our church and I'm up there trying to preach a message in front of everybody. And no, my feelings, here they were. They're like, I don't care what you're doing. We're coming out. And I just had to be in that time. I just had to ultimately I had to let it happen. And the more you can get comfortable with that, then I think the more you're going to be able to handle it when it happens. One of the other myths is you have to move on. And I don't think you ever do. You don't move on. The reality is that you move forward with grief. You learn to accept things. You learn to adapt in a way, I guess you could say. I shared one time with somebody that I was explaining to them what it felt like to lose a child. And the best way that I could describe it was, imagine that you had lost a limb. You'd had them your entire life, and now you just lost a limb. Well, you're going to adapt. You're going to learn to move around or do things without that limb. That limb's gone. It's never coming back. But you adapt. You start to do things without it, and maybe you're not doing it as good as you were before, but you're still getting it done. You're still doing things. To me, that was, and I've never dealt with that. I can't, but that was what had popped in my mind when I thought about losing our child. And I could imagine if I had ever had to lose a limb or something, that was what had popped in my mind, that I would continue to move forward if I lost a limb. I'm going to figure out how to do things. I'm going to learn how to do things, and you see it day in and day out with people that they were in their, midlife or whatever, and then they lose a limb. And what do? They had two choices, really. It was either a woe is me, and I'm just going to feel sorry for myself and stay down, stay stuck, or I'm going to get that victor mentality, and I'm going to figure out how to rise up, and I'm going to figure out how to adapt to this. And that's exactly what I was doing as I was learning these things, as I was understanding that these are feelings that's going to, now I'm ready for them. Now I'm ready for this. One of the other myths, and especially for us men, is that crying is weakness. I don't know who ever started that. I don't know. I really don't, but I would like to find out whoever started it and go back and smack them upside the head. Because there is immense power when you're able to set in those feelings and express. Expressing your feelings is strength. It's not weakness. It's not that you're less than or anything else. You are showing strength. And one thing that I did learn is that you should never apologize if you start crying or you're starting to break down. Do not apologize for that. That is one of the biggest things, because there is nothing wrong with that. And when you apologize for that, then you are essentially telling yourself that what you're doing is wrong. And it is not wrong. I can tell you that, and again, I am one of those that trying to express my feelings, letting that out, crying in front of people, is not something that I would do, not something that I felt comfortable with. I don't know where that came from. I really don't. I don't ever remember anybody telling me to not cry when I started crying. I don't remember any of those conversations. So where that came from, I really don't know, if it was just society or whatever. I really don't know. I honestly can't tell you. But I can tell you that once I was able to actually cry a little bit, and unfortunately, I think the first people that I cried with was actually the dad's group with Three Hopeful Hearts. And, I would cry when I would get up and I would try to share a message, but I would definitely I would hold it in as much as I could. When I was at the dad group, we're sharing our stories, and there was just, when you're sharing a story and you're trying to talk and you're trying to get that all out, you can't do it without breaking down. And there was definitely some release in that. And to see other dads, other men breaking down as well, really, I think, kind of helped open that door. So I just want to let you know right now, I'm opening that door for you as a man, or even as a woman that feels like you've got to hold it together, that it is okay. Expressing your feelings, letting your family know that, hey, I'm struggling with something. I am really having a hard time right now, and I need you guys here. I need your support. That right there is strength. It's not weakness. It's not wrong. It is what we're supposed to be doing as a family. I want to kind of move into another thing. As I was talking about, some of the things that it affects, one of the things that it really affected with me was my body itself, my hormones, I had fatigue, I never got sick, but I just was drained. I didn't have an appetite. I didn't have the desire to do things. I mean, I was still a CrossFit coach, so I was still going to the gym. I was still doing my workouts, and I was actually one of those that I would feel like I needed to kind of beat up my body just to, I guess, get rid of the pain, was kind of my mentality. And I don't know that that was really helping a bunch either, was me really pushing it like that, especially when I'm not eating right or things like that. And, my hormone levels had just tanked. And I was one of those, and I've been one of those for quite some time, that I believe that you should have a baseline of what your levels are, whether it's your testosterone, your, all your blood panel, all that stuff. I feel like you should know where you're at, and don't wait until you have issues to go to the doctor to find that out. It's one of those that you should already know. You should know where you're at when you're feeling good. And so anybody listening right now, if you haven't, that's one thing I would recommend, because the numbers, the things that doctors have, and I'm not knocking doctors. We need doctors. Doctors do some good things. But they've got a scale that they look at, and that scale for certain things is huge. So say, just for instance, for testosterone, you could be a person that your normal was, say, around 600, and their range is anywhere from, depends on which scale you're looking at, anywhere from 250 or 300 up to, say, like 800 or 900. And you're normally at a 600, and then all of a sudden life happens. And that's one thing that I did find out, that a traumatic event in life can just tank your testosterone. It will do, I'm not sure if it's a fight or flight kind of thing in your body or what. I haven't really looked into all of that. I would believe that that's probably part of it, is that fight or flight kind of thing, is your body is trying to survive with the stress, the emotions that you're having, the lack of food and everything. So it's going to start dropping things. And it is just part of the way that we're made for survival. Well, if you go to the doctor and then you get tested and you were normally a 600 and now you're a 300, and they're like, well, you're perfectly fine because that's within your range. Well, that's a dramatic drop for where you used to be. Now, maybe you used to be, hey, I was at 350 and, I'm at 300 and I feel great. Everybody's different. So, but anyway, that was me. That was one of those, I had gone in and got my hormones checked, and much later, this was a few years later. But this was after I'd started kind of getting back into things, back on track, and eating like I was supposed to and trying to train. I was doing all the things that they tell you to do to bring your levels back up to normal, and they weren't getting back to normal. So that was when I had to go to a doctor and talk to them. Those are things that nobody talks about. People don't talk about that type of thing, that your body starts doing weird things. It's just, we think that grief is just emotional, and it's not. It's also a physical thing. Those emotions have a big impact on our bodies themselves. So make sure that you're taking care of your body. Make sure that you're eating what you need to eat. Make sure you're eating plenty of protein. And I don't care if you're a vegan or whatever, figure out how to get some protein in your body. Without protein, you don't have anything to build that muscle. And if you don't have muscle in your body, then essentially you're going to have weakness. And you're not going to be able to do things. You're not going to move as well. You're going to, as you get older and older, that it's going to be harder to get around, harder to do things. And you fall down, well, now you're going to start breaking things because you don't have that muscle to help support things. So make sure you're taking care of your body. And that was one of the things that I was always trying to make sure that I was doing, was trying to take care of my body. Of course, like I said, a lot of times I would just go in and it wasn't like I was doing this all day long. I didn't work out all day. I would go in and I would push a workout. I would get in there and I was just like, nope, I am going to push what I can. And it was a way for me to cope with things. It was a way for me to get those feelings out. You see people in movies, they get upset. What do? It's usually a boxing movie or something. So they're in there hitting the bag really hard and just knocking it around. And well, that wasn't me. I wasn't a boxer. I didn't have no punching bag or anything else. I had weights. I had things at the gym, and I would try to push it. I would try to make it heavy. I would try to do whatever it was so that I could get those feelings out and express them some way. And I tell you what, that has helped me a whole bunch. I know right after he passed that next year, I put together what's called a memorial WOD. And what that basically is just you design a workout, and it is to honor that person. In the CrossFit field, there's a bunch of memorial WODs, for soldiers that have died in the line of duty, whatever it was. Well, I put together one for our son. And I tell you what, that first year, that was a struggle to get through, because every time that I was doing something, I was thinking about our son. I was thinking about this. I'm doing this because of him. This is a memorial WOD that is hitting home. It's not, I'm just doing one to help support somebody because somebody that I've never met, maybe I'm helping them to raise money or whatever it was. No, this one hit home. This one was for something that happened in my life. And I kept doing it every year. I missed it the year that we got into Texas. And then the next year I did it again. And then last year I just changed it up because now I don't necessarily go to a CrossFit gym. I do now have a rower, so I could actually do the original one that I used to. And I might share, I'll actually probably be doing one because it's coming up in August. So that will actually be in my Instagram feed. If you guys want to check that out, again, if you guys want to check out my Instagram, it's at Strength After Sorrow. So you can find me there. There's a link that you guys can get to Riverside to be able to get to all the platforms on this. So, and I post some different things there, and I'm going to be doing a lot more on there, just some different things, whether it's grief related or strength related or just whatever there can be to help become better. whether it's adapting to things or something that I heard or something that I learned or, a little lesson that I got while I was doing something, whatever it is, I'm going to be posting a lot of that stuff on there. But this is going to be my main focus is, of course, the podcast. But so that was one of the things that I would use for coping is doing my workout, the memorial WOD, or whether it was just a tough workout or whatever it was. One of the other things that I really like to do with coping is, I don't know why, for me, if I listen to angry music, then it's almost like I can just let my emotions filter out through that music. And a lot of people, when they listen to angry music, it gets them kind of riled up. And I'm kind of the opposite. It almost calms me down. And if I am really on edge, I will put some stuff like that on and I will let it just kind of get there and I will listen to it for a little bit. And it's almost like it kind of calms me down. To me, it's almost like a breathing technique. If you guys have ever tried any breathing techniques, whether box breathing or whatever, I've done a lot of that stuff and it definitely works. And the same feeling that I get a lot with box breathing is the same feeling I get when I'm listening to some of that just angry music. And I try not to listen to stuff that's gonna, break my spirit, I guess you could say. I'm kind of mindful of that. It's just a lot of it is more of that music. I love listening to Demon Hunter, Project 86. There's a few others that I really like listening to, and it just gets into it, and I'm just like, ha. So that was something that I would use for some coping. People kept telling me, you should journal. And I would get a notebook out. I'm not a journaler. And so I can't tell you to journal because I don't do it. And I can't seem to get myself to do it. I can sit down, and if I was like preparing a message or something like that, or sitting down to prepare for the podcast, whatever, I can get a notepad out and I can write things down. I can write down my thoughts. I can do this, do that. But for me to just do that on a normal, I've just never been one of those that do it, and I can't seem to get in a habit of doing it. And to be honest, I don't know that I care enough that's probably mostly right there, is I don't care enough to make it a habit to get it to be a habit. So if you're a journaler, that is definitely a way that a lot of people use for coping, even if it's just writing down a word or just one thought. I guess maybe that's where I'm making it a little more than it is. I'm thinking I've got to sit there and I got to write out all my feelings and stuff like that. And maybe it's just, you know what, I got this word and I'm going to write that word out. And maybe today it was just anger, or maybe it was forgiveness, whatever it was. You just get some word that comes to you, write it down. Maybe I'll try it. I don't know. I'll let you know later. But one of the other ways that you can, for coping is talking to a trusted person. I hope you have somebody in your life that you can trust. If you don't, then I pray you find somebody. Find a group. With us going to Three Hopeful Hearts, that really helped us a lot because that was focused on these people are dealing with the same thing that we're dealing with. Their story's a little bit different, but they're dealing with the same thing that we're dealing with. So it made it a lot easier. Sometimes I've got to admit that I didn't want to go, because sometimes I didn't want to have those feelings. I didn't want to, I guess, be brought back down from where I was feeling. So, because I was feeling good. I was kind of on a high at that moment. So I really didn't want to go to some place that was an atmosphere that was going to bring me back down. I just didn't want to do it. So sometimes we just didn't go. But for the most part, it was really beneficial. It was a good way for just knowing that there was other people that you could talk to. There was other people that understood what you were going through. And hopefully you've got a friend that you can talk to that they just want to listen. And that is what you need. You need somebody that's just going to listen. Let you just express your feelings, whether it is screaming or yelling or crying or whatever it is. That is what you need. Another avenue is therapy. I've had one session, and I am one, I will not go to a therapist unless it's a male. And I do that only for one reason. Not that I think that female therapists are not any good. It is, my thought back then was, I don't want my wife ever having some feeling that I could open up to another woman and I wasn't opening up to her. And so I was not going to even go down that road. I wasn't going to open that door. And I had one brief kind of interaction with a male therapist, and he was just going through his getting into the practice, I guess, is what he was getting out of school or whatever. And the problem was he was down in Colorado. I was up in Wyoming. So I actually had to drive into Colorado to legally have a session with him. Even though we were on the phone, he was not licensed for Wyoming. So I had to drive, which was like 8 miles down, so that I could get at the border to make it legit. It's just the way it works. So, but I really enjoyed actually talking with a male, even though he hadn't gone through the same thing that I had gone through. He was a man, and for me to be able to express things to him or him to understand some things, for me, it helped. So therapy is definitely a recommended. I know we've been talking about maybe trying to find something here, and we'll see. I've got a couple of, I guess you could say, life coaches that I talk to that is provided through work that it's not even really, I don't ever talk about this. It's just more of kind of the nutrition side of things, where am I at? But it's kind of cool because it keeps you on track of things. So even just a life coach that you could do with this type of thing. And I know that's an avenue that I'm actually wanting to move into later. It'll be down the road, but that is something that I'm wanting to move into is, doing some of that coaching. And, coaches aren't therapists. Coaches are that trusted person that can be there for you, that can listen to you. And they don't direction, I guess you could say. They don't tell you what to do. They help guide you is what they do. They listen and they gather what it is that you're going through and almost kind of help you to figure out what that direction is that you need to go. And I've enjoyed it. So, I've been certified for a little while now. And so I'm thinking about doing that, but we'll see. It's not that I need anything else to add to my plate right now. Again, coping, allowing yourself to cry, just give yourself permission is going to be, I guess, one of my biggest suggestions. Is even if you're not going to do it right away, just tell yourself you have permission to cry. You have permission to cry. And just tell it to yourself. And I did. I actually told myself one time, I'm like, Jeff, I give you permission to cry. And it didn't happen right away. In fact, the next time that it came up, what did I do? I tried to hold it back. But if you can continue to do that, if you're giving yourself permission to have these feelings, then they're going to be able to come out, which is a cleansing, which is a healing process. So give yourself that permission. Sometimes you got to scream. I would scream. I remember going out into my back garage and I yelled. I was just yelling. I was yelling at God. I was screaming. And I was cussing, and which is not my nature. I'm not a cusser. Hopefully you guys have kind of realized that listening to this podcast, that those aren't words that are a normal thing that come out of my mouth. So, but that was part of my coping. That was something that I had to do. And there was times even with that, I mean, I would hold myself back from that as well. I would not allow myself to scream or yell like I needed to. And I would do it in my truck every once in a while, but I wouldn't ever let it fully manifest. And I don't know why. Maybe I felt bad. I don't know what it was. And I was okay after, yelling at God. Yeah, but I knew God knew what my feelings were anyway, and God can handle it. He's not up there going, I can't believe he just said that. It was in my mind already. And I like to believe that he was up there going, okay, get it out. I want you to get it all out right now so that you can feel comfortable expressing yourself. Because I would want my kid to do that. I want them to be able to open up to me, whether or not it is just yelling and screaming and just getting those emotions out. Me as a natural dad, I'm probably going to go, oh, hold on, wait a minute. Let's not get that tone with me, but maybe it's not that tone with you. It's just there's some frustration there and they need to get it out. So let's just get it out. Let's get this taken care of. Again, there was also a lot of times where I just felt nothing. And that is a weird feeling, to just feel nothing. There's no joy, no sorrow, no happiness, no nothing. It's just like this blank feeling that I would get. And I really had that actually the first day, the day that it happened. And like I said, I'll share that sometime. It was almost like I was not even there. I was somewhere else, just kind of looking in. But I've had those times ever since then, where it's just like you're looking at your life from outside and you just have this blank, weird kind of nothingness. It's all part of coping. It's part of your body doing things and figuring things out is what it is. One of the other things, let's move into, some of the moments that nobody talks about. Breaking down, feeling fine, suddenly being hit by grief. These are a lot of times, especially like I said, this is about what happens when nobody else is around. Here you are, you're going about your day, you're out and about, you're at work, you go to church or whatever it is, you've got a group of friends that you're hanging out with, or you're going to the gym, you're part of a CrossFit community, and here you are, you're there and you're putting on your brave face, you're just looking strong and just, man, you're doing good. And everybody's like, man, they don't even bring it up anymore. And, they don't necessarily ask how you're doing, and if they ask how you're doing, it's more of the casual, kind of like everybody else. Hey, so how are you doing? Yeah, I'm okay. And that's usually what I would leave it at. I would just leave it at, yeah, I'm okay. I'm doing all right, because I don't know that they wanted to actually know what I was going through. Maybe they did. I don't know. I will share this. I heard a podcast, or I don't know if it was a podcast or just a clip that I saw. And somebody was talking about not sharing your feelings with those around you, kind of hiding it or saying, I just don't want to talk about that, or whatever it is, of how it is that you're robbing them of that opportunity to be there for you. And I wish somebody would have said that to me a long time ago, because I wonder how many opportunities I robbed from those that were around me that wanted to be there for me, because I wouldn't open up. I wouldn't share what it was that I was going through, the feelings that I had at that time. So I want to be, I guess, aware of that now, that I want to have that opportunity. I want to give somebody else that opportunity to be there for me. I want to have that opportunity to be there for somebody else as well. But those are the weird things. Feelings. You're feeling fine, and then all of a sudden, here you are. You get back home, and now you're alone, and those feelings start rising up again because now you don't have something that is distracting you. It's not taking your mind off of what's going on inside your body or inside your mind, inside your heart, inside those emotions. And then those emotions start taking over instead of the situation that you were in. And then all of a sudden you're just like, okay, but then the weird thing is our natural instinct is now I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to eat. I don't want to do, and for me, I've got to be honest. I drank too much. I never actually drank to get drunk. That was way back in the day when I did that. But I would drink a few beers every single night to I was thinking of it as this is going to kind of wind me down. It wasn't winding me down. It was actually doing other things. But that was one of the things that I was using as a coping mechanism, which can really get out of control. If you're using something, if you're telling yourself that you've got to have something to take care of what you're feeling. And that is one thing really you got to, and it's not even just alcohol. It can be food or no food or me doing those workouts. I mean, just punishing yourself, well, I've got to just put myself through this because this is this or whatever. And, I'm not feeling good. And this, he died. And what right do I have to be alive right now? Or all these, I tell you what, they come up, and it is not a healthy place. But if you don't talk about it, then those feelings keep coming back and they take you over. They consume you. And if you can get those feelings out, maybe this is the time to journal. But for me, it was more of I just kind of grabbed a hold of them. And with me being in the Word for as long as I've been, that scripture of taking every thought captive would come around. And every once in a while, it would just kind of hit me. And I'm like, oh, this is a thought that I have to take captive because this is a thought that can get out of control in my life. And if I don't take control of it now, then it's going to consume me, and then I'm going to spiral out of control. So those are things that I had to do. I had to make sure that those feelings weren't coming in, the things that I thought that I needed to do. I used to tell myself that if I don't get a workout in during the day, then I'm a bear. I am angry, and I quit saying that. I quit saying that if I don't get a workout in, then you better watch out. It turned into, you know what? If I can't work out today, that's okay. That means I'm getting a rest day. I'll pick it up tomorrow. And my attitude changed. My mind shifted. And it was just because I changed what it was that I was saying. I mean, there is power in our words. If you say it enough, you're going to believe it. So for me to tell myself that all those times, if I don't get a workout in, and I wasn't able to get a workout in because of, work would consume me. I had job after job or whatever it was. And then I would be in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, when I get home, then I am going to go out in the back garage and I'm going to get a workout in. And then I would get home, and then life, family, and then I would never get a workout in. Then I would get mad because I wasn't getting a workout in. Well, number one, I told myself that if I didn't get a workout in during the day, then I'm probably going to have a bad day. Number two, I was putting something out. I made plans in the back of my mind and didn't let anybody else know what these plans are. And then when these plans didn't come around, Then I got mad at everybody else because my plans didn't work out. Well, what are they supposed to do? They didn't know I planned on working out. So I had to change that one too. Hey, when I get home tonight, I'm planning on doing a workout. You know what? Every time that I do that, I come home and I get a workout in. But like I said, now I don't have that. I have to work out. It's more of a, you know what? If I don't get a workout in today, that's okay. That just means I needed a rest day. And I will take a couple rest days now. And my body feels better. I feel better. I'm much happier. I do love working out still. That is definitely something, I planned on working out today and I just didn't get it done. I decided to tackle something else. I changed the table that I'm using for this podcast and redid it. And so that just consumed my day, but that's okay. I'm all right with it. So, these are just part of the normal things that happen as we're going through this journey that we're on. Grief doesn't end. It evolves. Like I said, this is a journey that we're on. The more you adapt, the more you get better at this. And with me working out, I think about it that way because there are movements that I didn't used to be able to do. The more that I would work at it, the easier those movements came. And, I evolved into better at this. And then I would go through a phase where I didn't do that movement at all. And guess what? I lost my ability to do that movement like I used to. And you can't get upset with yourself because you don't do something. If you're not going to tell yourself it's okay to cry, don't get mad at yourself when you're not crying, or you're not letting yourself have those feelings or whatever it is. Or if you're telling yourself that you're going to get angry because of this and you get angry, don't get mad at yourself for it because you're telling yourself you're going to do it. Change what you're saying and change how you're feeling. That is 100% how this works. If you can tell yourself things, you can tell yourself, hey, it is okay that I'm this way, or I don't need this. I don't need to have alcohol just to calm down. Maybe you just need to go out in the back and you need to go yell. And yelling would be much more beneficial and cheaper than going and grabbing a 6-pack of beer. And I'm not telling you that you shouldn't drink or anything like that. I'm just telling you that the crutches that we get are the things that we keep grabbing a hold of. And the more crutches we have, then the harder it is to keep moving along. I've listened to a lot of people that they talk about people, when they get older, and the moment that they start using a walker or something to start getting around, then they become completely reliant on that. And their ability to be able to move around and get from point A to point B on their own has just completely left. And it's the same thing when we're finding all these crutches, is we completely lose our ability to do things without these crutches. So the sooner you can get these crutches out of your life as something that you need, quote unquote, to be able to get you through, then faster you're going to be able to find positive things and move forward that way. And again, that is part of this, being a victor and not a victim. I don't want to have those crutches, and I've had them. I've definitely had them, and I have changed some things, whether it was just a declaration that I had or whatever it was, or I quit saying something, then those crutches were easier to get rid of. So I think we're going to cut it out there, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and remember to go like this podcast. I'm on Instagram. Go check that out at Strength After Sorrow, and go ahead and like that page. And again, if you guys want to reach me, you can reach me there. also at strengthaftersorrow@gmail.com. And I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I think it's Amazon. I think I'm on that. And then, of course, YouTube. And so make sure you guys follow, all that good stuff. And we will see you on the next episode.